Hello, this is the Surviving Healthcare Podcast, and I have Tamara Santa Anna here to discuss what's in the bottle. And what that means is what the heck are we doing with these supplements and the problems with the supplements, and why do we endorse Fullscript, which costs a little more? And you guys have seen that link at the top of all my posts, and I'm going to, Tamara and I are going to explain it. And I've got my American Patriot flag shirt on for the occasion.
Oh, wow.
So, Tamara, do you want to get started?
Sure. I'm ready.
Okay. So, supplements are problematic. And between 2007 and 2016, the FDA identified 746 dietary supplements that were actually mixed with pharmaceuticals, and 48% were recalled. And I don't know what they did with the rest. And there are a lot of other problems. The ingredients originate in China, where the industrial pollution is incredible, and Fullscript consists is an amalgamation platform which takes the best brands which are manufactured in the United States and tested for purity and puts them in one outlet where you can buy it. And these have commissions that Tamara and I get, but we have decided to give a 20% rebate on the retail price back to the patients, so they wouldn't feel like they were getting ripped off. And we
And that's
genuinely,
most of the commission.
that's most of the commission. And so we genuinely feel that these are the smart move. And I recently threw out a bunch of my supplements because they were old, or I bought them from Amazon, or I just had my doubts about them. So, Tamara, take off and tell us a little bit about this issue.
Okay. So as you mentioned, FullScript is a platform that I can send my patients to and yours, where they're getting a professional version most of the time. A few of them you can get retail, but most of them you're only able to get through professionals. And so what we do is we allow our patients to go in. They get a large discount, 20%, which, as he mentioned, that's most of our commission. And usually they come the next day, which avoids the heat issue and damaging the vitamins. And there's 375 plus companies available. So if you want to order from three or four different companies, you can put them right in that one area, low fee for free shipping. I think it's $50, which for me as a professional, when I order from a company, it's usually 250 and on up. So it's a great way for patients to go in and peruse what they need to get, professional quality and at a discount.
And the patients do have to enter their emails, but that helps us stay in contact with them. And so, do they need their phone number too, or what else do they have to enter? I mean, the you just click the link and you follow the directions, and then you can search for whatever you want, and you can see the companies that supply these things. And we'll talk about the best companies are Thorne Pure Encapsulations, Life Extension, and a few others.
Well, don't forget Microbiome Labs. And some of these companies are just high excellence. Vital Nutrients checks every single batch for um, pesticides and mold and heavy metals, as does Biotics Research. So when you're having issues that you need to be very careful, this is so nice. And then the other thing that I find really nice is that the platform will say to you, would you like to look at other similar products? And that's really good because it might pull up a product that's $40 and you're saying, "Oh no." But you look at similar products and you might find one for 20. And so little things like that in this area are very, very handy to have.
So we don't want to scare you too much, but there are plenty of horror stories. In October 2024, now, which is a supplement company, they bought 24 suspicious supplements called SAMe on Amazon, and 20 of the 23 failed potency testing, and 16 had less than 20% of the labeled potency. Six had zero potency. So there's a lot of stuff that is completely fake and a lot of stuff that isn't as good as advertised. And Amazon is, Tamara's very cynical about Amazon supplements, and I'm less cynical because, of course, you can buy a lot of these things, same things as Fullscript, but with the 20% discount, it's generally cheaper on Fullscript than it is on Amazon. And Amazon has the problem that in the summertime, the packages can sit out on a airstrip somewhere and get subjected to very high heat. I mean, which can essentially destroy the product. So
The delicate enzymes
yeah,
and the
and
food-based.
this is what Tamara does for a living. I mean, she treats people with herbals and other supplements in a manner that approximates what an MD does with pharmaceutical, expensive and often ineffective pharmaceutical drugs. So, I mean, it's fascinating. Her world is very complicated, and I've been unable to master more than a small percentage of it in my association with her, but I'm learning, you know,
You're
slowly.
you're doing a good
I'm a
job learning,
I'm a
but I've
slow
had a
student.
40-year advantage
Yeah.
on you. And so I don't sell anything on Amazon, but I did somehow receive a notice from them not to have anything that cannot tolerate 160 degrees, which is what the warehouses might be subjected to in the summer. So I once ordered a pack of gum just to see what happened, and it came to me, it was all melted. So then I really believed them. And Fullscript usually will get it to you the next day or the day after. You can add a little fee to get it as fast as possible. And you can even ask them to put an ice pack in to protect your products, like probiotics and things that are sensitive to heat, even that 1 day transport.
T- Tamara is a seminar geek because for 20, 30 years, she went to about a medical training seminar every month.
Several
And I
times.
did that for a while and then I gave up on it. It was just too much, and cosmetic surgery is much more limited field than the entirety of medicine, which is what Tamara covered. So,
Well, it's important because I treasure my patients and I want to do the best by them. And so I cannot let them use commercial products that I'm not aware of whether it actually has active ingredients or not. I need to make sure, since I deal with mostly very serious illnesses, that they have the best quality of nutrients or supplements to work with them, because if someone is complex patient or they're very sick, I don't have time usually to waste with subpar products, and that's why I feel really good about this. We had a little vitamin store for a long time, and we still do, but we try to give our patients like really good service, and then we discovered that they can get on to Fullscript and order themselves, and so many of them have really been appreciative of that. So it's not a money-making thing, it's more of a patient-saving thing. And basically, you can get some of the best products. If you want to ask me a question, just send it to my email and I'll try to answer questions and help you. That's my life.
so she boots anybody who doesn't pay any attention to her. Isn't that right, Tamara?
Yes. Yeah.
Kicks them right out of the practice
Kick
because
them right out because how can I deliver 120% if the patient is not following what I've learned over decades in terms of helping them.
So Amazon is the cheapest, but it's a totally mixed bag. It sells everything from pure encapsulations and the other top brands to stuff that's completely unknown. And the trick with Amazon is, I mean, you have to, if you're going to buy from Amazon, you don't want to buy anything that you're not pretty sure comes from a reputable company.
Yeah.
And so I
Well, we
recently
don't,
bought
you
methylene blue capsules from an unknown, and one bottle made my urine blue, and the other bottle didn't do anything. So,
yeah.
so I think it had no or vastly reduced ingredients.
Well, fraud is rampant, and I hate to say that. I don't like to be too cynical. But for example, you mentioned that study that was done, and of the 790 something products that were tested, um, most of them were contaminated. And that's because they're
With
not going to
pharmaceuticals,
with
can you imagine?
pharmaceutical steroids, all these things, because what FullScript does, it gets their nutrients directly from the manufacturer. So that eliminates that possibility. But when they took them off the market, they only took roughly 45% or 48% actually off the market. So what they that meant is that they left a whole bunch on the market for my patients to get to. And I didn't like that.
Oh, okay. So Amazon is problematic, but it's not all bad. And if you know what you're doing, you can buy stuff from Amazon. For example, I I buy a brand of 50,000 international unit vitamin D, and I know it works because my vitamin D levels are high. They're 130. It doesn't show up on the Eliga scan, but in my blood levels, they're great.
Well, can I add that something to that?
Sure.
I just learned this the other day. I was doing some scanning in my office, which I use several, and then I compare the results. And one of them said my intestinal lacteals, which is where we get these fat vitamins absorbed, were congested. And therefore, no matter how much I took through the mouth orally, I wouldn't be able to get an uptake unless I took, for example, liposomal. So that was really interesting. And I'm going to be watching my patients carefully because I remember one time cleaning out the lacteals for a patient and she got so much better. Now, why did I forget that? I won't now.
Well, that was out of my depth, but let's skip on to Costco. So Kirkland Signature is a step up from anonymous brands, and they have the USP verified mark on them, and they stock Nature Made, which is also pretty good, and they've got that same verification on 68 things. And but the pharmacists don't know what they're selling there, of course, like everywhere else. And it may work for some of these things, but it doesn't work for exotic supplements that Tamara supplies. So anyway, and then we've got to talk about China a little bit
But could
because,
I go back to
yeah,
Costco for a moment?
sure.
So I went in and I bought some fish oils, for example, and several other products, and I wanted to evaluate their ingredients. And I'll talk about this one just today, but one of them was the fish oils. So, wow, you could get really good prices on the fish oils. However, if you look at the ingredients, there's probably 8 or 10 different types of fishes in the ingredients. And what I surmised was that it's very low cost to buy the remnants of fishes, and squeeze out all the oil and have 8 or 10 different ones. But what are you actually getting? You're probably getting remnants of 8 different types of fishes, and they may already be rancid. So that's one category I would watch and stay away from, in addition to several others.
Do you like fish oil supplements as a whole?
You know what? For a long time, I didn't, but now I do.
So you take
And
fish oil yourself?
yes, I do. And the reason I take it now is I always was interested in plant-based oils that you can get. There was a big argument around the year 2000 about plant-based versus regular fish oils. But when I ran my own genetics, I saw that I would not be very well advised to take plant-based. I just wouldn't use it as well. So now I have switched to an exceptional quality fish oil.
Yeah, that's why saturated fats are animal, and I just don't. I'm not into the plant stuff anymore. I was at one point, but so traipsing on to China, we've got 80% of our global vitamin C coming from China, and 80% of the Chinese industrial pollution is horrible, and they discharge 80% of the industrial waste right into the rivers. And so it's a filthy place. They sell us fentanyl precursors, or they sell Mexico fentanyl precursors to poison our children with, and they're filled with pesticides. So you don't want to trust anything from China if you can help it. But unfortunately, most of these generic supplements are made in China. India is an alternative, but they're not that great either. And I reviewed their prescription drug manufacturer in India and China in Butchered by Healthcare. And in this post, I inserted that chapter as a download. And I recommend you read that because it's just freaking horrifying. The factory conditions are filthy. There's no inspection oversight from the United States. In the United States, of course, we've got some inspection, but the FDA, with a $5 billion budget, is a tiny fraction of pharma and the supplement industry. I mean, it's those industries are in the hundreds of billions in all likelihood. And so they can't possibly monitor what's going on in the supplement factories. So, I mean, India, India, the way it works is for drugs that are commonly used and not very expensive, you're probably getting a reliable product. But for drugs that are expensive, you could be getting a fake. So, and some of the pharmacies have good reputations, like All Day Chemist. You can order from them. And no one's going to throw you in jail for ordering a drug, even probably a scheduled drug from foreign sources, because they just don't enforce it. And they've even said they don't enforce it if you have a prescription from the United States. So it's a huge gray area, and fortunately for us, we've got alternatives.
Well, we don't want to bash all Chinese products. One of my absolute favorite is from Dr. Chi Enterprises.
Does he make
Their
that in
product,
China?
excuse me?
Does he manufacture in China?
Yes, but he specifically made a point to tell his students, he teaches a lot of healthcare students, that they grow their products far away from these centers with industrial pollution and other types. So he's aware of that. And he also has a headquarters here in Anaheim where I traveled one time and he showed us his safe room, which the standards in his safe room were 100 times
Clean
what was
room, right? A
required.
clean room. Clean
Clean room.
room. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
safe room. Yes, he's safe and clean in there. But the clean room was very meticulous. So when I get his products, I am thrilled because I know they're going to work and that they're safe for my patients. You know, I'm like the mother hen. I want them to take the best.
Well, I went over there and visited him, and I had the typical experience. He sold me an awful lot of expensive things that I couldn't stand to take. It was just too much. I
Yeah.
mean, on top of everything else I was taking. But he was very nice, very
He's
pleasant.
very knowledgeable. Before he even became an MD, he had evaluated 10,000 of his dad's, who was an MD, patients, and he learned about what the science in the body really meant. And he does have a truly great heart. But you're bringing up a point that is really good. We don't want to be taking too many supplements because we're revving up different systems. And if we're not aware of what we're revving up, we have to be careful. So that was a good point, Robert.
So the CCP holds direct ownership stakes in these chemical firms tied to drug trafficking, including a state-run prison-operated company. And it's illicit fentanyl killed more than 64,000 Americans in 2021 and is the leading cause of death for Americans aged 18 to 45 since 2019. I mean, the whole thing is just a travesty. And it's an aggressive warfare technique. So
Yes.
you can't trust these damn Chinese. I mean, except for Dr. Chi,
Yes.
who I met at a conference.
Well, let me tell you how brilliant he was. I was at his studio in Anaheim, and then several years later, I was at a big conference in Las Vegas, at huge, thousands and thousands of doctors and practitioners. And I walked by him, and he said, "Oh, hello, Dr. Sanana." He remembered my name. He's just bright.
He's a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
So to run over the best manufacturers, Pure Encapsulations, Thorne Research, Life Extension, Gero Formulas, Now Foods, Nature Made, Designs for Health, Ortho Molecular, Vital Nutrients, Standard Process, and Biotics Research, and probably Dr. Joseph Mercola belongs on the list as well. Would
Okay,
you
so
say
some of
that?
those I would consider second tier, but you did a very good job. And let me just mention this. If I have a patient that's requested that I monitor them, I might talk to them about something I see going in, uh, just to make sure if they have a serious issue, then that they're getting the right stuff. So if you put my email in at the end, I will try to answer any questions if people have that when they're trying to order something.
So if you go to the link on my website at the top of every, or not the website, on the top of every post, and you get in there and you order something and you want to talk to Dr. Santa Anna, it's not very expensive to do a 20-minute supplements consultation. I don't know what's your current price for that, Tamara. It used to be
Well,
free,
it's
but
very, let's put it this way, it's about one-fourth of what typically is or less than that. But if they email me, I can respond, fairly quickly and at no cost. Because it's confusing. This whole thing is confusing and it took me years to get it down.
I don't have
And
it down at all.
yeah.
I mean, it's absurd. I mean, it's just so complicated.
Well,
And the
one of the things I see is when my patients are on something, is it working? That's what we want. We want to know, is it working? And I can use, if I have a patient come and stay with me for a couple days, I can use a combination of the different scanners and we can see if certain things are reviving in the body, or starting to have better results. So that's a sophisticated approach, but it really works. And I need that in some of my, like I work with ALS and neurodegeneration, things like that. So I want to be on top of this in a speedy fashion.
so Dr. Tamara has the Eliga scan, the Zyto machine, and she's got hyperbaric chambers, and what else do you
AO
have?
scan,
AO scan.
which I just, which I found out exactly how powerful it is when I started getting the information run through, like with the Zytoscan. I have an angioscan to tell you right in office what is the shape and age of your arteries, which is really fascinating
So what
because
we're talking about is what she has at her facility in Virginia, and she does a live-in consultation for a few days for special patients. And she runs everybody through all this stuff and then puts it into an AI
an
and
amalgamated AI.
amalgamated AI, hundreds and hundreds of pages of data.
Yes.
And the AI spits out conclusions and Tamara interprets it.
And I put in their entire genome that I have available and a microbiome test plus the results of these different scans. So it gives me a really personalized view. When patients come in, they have no idea what's been going on, why they're so sick for years. And then when they come out, we got it. We have the answer. So it's very exciting.
Very cool. And this all kind of started just a year ago with the AI analysis, didn't it?
Yes, because I have determined, sadly enough, but the AI is much, much smarter than I am. It can amalgamate huge amounts of data that I might only, when I peruse, get to the tip of. But he will find things and say, there's three different things on this same pathway. Take a good look at this. And that was what I found with the pancreatic flukes. So I had a patient that was literally having a problem getting well. And we tried to get rid of the Lyme, which made her herx really badly. And then when I took all this data, what popped up was that she had pancreatic flukes, which is where these
It's a
Lyme
better
organisms.
story than that. It's a better
Okay,
story than that. The
what would
story,
you like?
this, the story is that she had symptomatology that suggested this diagnosis, this exotic diagnosis. I mean, what do I know about pancreatic flukes? You know, Tamara had heard of them and knew something about them, and the woman had cyclic symptomatology that suggested a parasite. And she was on ivermectin but wasn't responding. And pancreatic flukes are not sensitive to ivermectin, and Tamara knew that.
Exactly.
So this a great story, and every time you tell it, you don't tell it right because
Oh,
it's
okay.
if you leave the suspense in the story until the end, people will be more impressed with you. But you just sort of pretend like, oh, pancreatic flukes, no big deal. You know?
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Pancreatic flukes could be transient. There's no real commercial way to test this.
So
Blood work.
these things are visible to the naked eye, right? Not that you
So
can
yes,
see
so
through
they're
people.
usually or typically found only on autopsy, but the spirochetes live in this realm. So when you see a patient saying they're having cyclical symptoms, then you start to think parasites. And then when you give them something to get rid of their Lyme and they start herxing really badly, it means we have to take a step back and get into the possibility of flukes.
So just to
And
define the Herx thing for people that don't know,
oh yes.
the
So
Herx the Herx thing is when a therapy is partly effective and kills some of the organisms and the dead body parts go through the system and make you sick. They give you
yeah,
joint pain, diarrhea, and other symptoms. Sometimes you just feel terrible and can hardly get out of bed. And so we see this sometimes on chlorine dioxide treatment of various things, or sometimes, for ivermectin or other treatment of parasites or something like that. So the herxing happens for Lyme frequently because Lyme, their organisms are everywhere. They're spirochetes. And Herxheimer reaction was originally described for syphilis, which is a spirochete.
yeah.
And when you give somebody penicillin, it kills every spirochete in your body, at least that kind, and it makes you sick as hell for a day or two. But then you're fine. But unfortunately for Lyme disease, there are these persister cells, which is an inactive form of the organism, which comes back with a vengeance after you stop treatment. So you need to kind of keep things up for a year or a few months and be sure of what you're doing in order to properly treat Lyme disease.
That's a really good point. And I'm glad you're bringing this up because so many patients, I'm here in Western Virginia, and Lyme is a very big problem. But what happens when you're trying to go after the Lyme, these uh, parasites will release fresh waves of the spirochetes every few weeks. And that's what the patients are experiencing over and over, and they're not getting well. So by treating in the correct order, then we can go after the Lyme much more successfully and less painfully.
Tamara's in
And
an
there's natural ways, by the way, for the pancreatic flutes that you can do, or, and I don't mind at all, referring to someone who's a prescriber to use the known um, molecules that will kill it, but ivermectin doesn't. So, it's as you put these little pieces together, things start to make sense.
Tamara's in this endemic area for Lyme on the East Coast, and everybody freaking has Lyme. I mean, it's horrible. Tamara has Lyme herself. And I was just diagnosed here because I think it's because I spent time rock climbing on the East Coast when I was in my 30s. And I think I got it then. And I was in a dermatology program when the disease was first being described with the rash, and the dermatologists were thrilled about it because there was a rash and they claimed it was their disease. I mean, it's a big ego thing. And she's not, how far are you from Connecticut?
Oh, I'm about 10 or 12 hours, depending on what part. Yeah,
Well, the whole thing started in
as of
Deer Island in Connecticut at a military institution where gain of function research weaponized the Lyme disease, theoretically for attacking our enemies. But what ended up happening was we all freaking got Lyme in the United States. And now it's likely a double-digit% of the population here is seropositive, and many are symptomatic. I mean, it's a real nightmare. And the treatment has been either concealed or it's just
yes.
they claim
And
it's
even
too. I'm inarticulate because they claim it can be cured in 2 weeks and it takes months and months, and has to require sophisticated antibiotics, multiple antibiotics sometimes.
I mean, part of it depends on your own immune system, but in my area, you're given a 10-day course of antibiotics, which may or may not do it. And then I see patients all the time that have had this going on for years. If you'd like, Robert, I could put into your store site a specific button that they can push that tells them what I use naturally
For Lyme.
for Lyme. No, for the pancreatic flukes.
Okay,
And
well, I don't know. I don't think anybody's going to be able to figure out they've got pancreatic flukes. They'll have to see you to figure that one out.
come
I mean,
visit me because
this whole discussion gives me the willies. Pancreatic flukes. Oh no, all
well,
the
I'll
problems.
tell you,
I've got Lyme and Parkinson's, and I'm just happy I don't have pancreatic flukes.
but I found someone else since then, so it was very interesting. And in my philosophy, what I'm going to do is run both of them through the scanners. One of them I can do long distance and just kind of keep an eye on it because, as I said, it could be a transient visitor. So we don't want to start a bunch of products if we don't really need it. But it has shown up very specifically. And for me, it was great because I need this information to help my patients get over their spirochete illnesses. And by doing it in the correct order, if they do happen to have other parasites, then that's where I'm going to go. And the fact of it is that parasites are kind of a scary subject. So I used to
I don't
test for
like to
them.
think of the subject at all. I just pretend
Well,
like they
that's
don't
exactly
exist.
how everyone says. But I used to test parasites until I had a patient came back the next day and she told me, she said, I had nightmares all night long about parasites. So at that point, I pulled back a little from testing or maybe not revealing to the patient if they were a little sensitive. But it's a big issue. Because it doesn't, not everyone that I've tested has it, but has different parasites, but many people do, especially if you have a cat or a dog that likes to kiss you or you're around other animals. And that might be more of a zoonotic infection, but it's still nonetheless worthy of getting out of your body.
My motto is lips that touch dog lips will never touch mine. And I want to say something.
Exactly.
I want to say something reassuring about parasites now that we've horrified everybody. I reviewed this and I talked to this woman who started a company to treat parasites with herbals and is very successful. I mean, she's multi-million dollar gross revenues and she's doing very well. And she saved herself from her parasites, which had just about killed her. But I learned that she had a problem that predisposed her to the parasite issue, and that is she had 7 root canals, which destroy your immunity. And I feel quite certain that her natural immunity would have overcome those parasites had she just gotten her root canals removed. And to my knowledge, she ignored me. She ignored my
Oh,
ideas. And it sounds so improbable that the damn dentist could be poisoning us with root canals and mercury and fluoride, but they are. They're evil. They're an evil, it's second worst specialty after pediatrics, who are killing our children with
there.
vaccines. And so my conclusion about parasites was generally they're not a problem. Many people have parasites, but they're suppressed quite avidly by our own immunities. So you're never symptomatic. And the people who do colon treatments, for example, where they lavage out the stool, they say everybody has parasites in their stool. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but certainly it's pretty common, at least in the people who are symptomatic enough to go in to see the colon treater. And and so I wouldn't get too worked up about parasites, but with that caveat, I would also say that a good parasite purge with Finbin or ivermectin a couple times a year, especially if you have dogs, is reasonable. And all that takes is 3 or 4 days of a couple pills a day. It's easy. You can buy that stuff over the counter.
Yes, that's good advice. But remember, there are some that are not susceptible to the ivermectin, some of the parasites and stuff. And that's where I come in to try to help. And a lot of the labs just don't test thoroughly. And as a matter of fact, yesterday I found out that Microbiome Labs has redone their stool test, the BiomeFX, and they have added like 36 extra parasites to their findings, which I think was great.
That's great. Well, it just goes back to the most important basics, and that is every single patient you ask what's in their mouth because the mouth destroys the immunity
Yeah.
if they've got appliances or root canals or mercury in there. And you ask them what their vaccine history is, and you probably consider Lyme disease in every case because Lyme is ubiquitous. I mean, it's very common. And so, Tamara, you can see how brilliant she is. She's got all these different facts swimming around her brain, and I just try to keep the basics straight.
So in regards to that, William Lee Cowden wrote the Cowden Protocol for Lyme, and he really is brilliant healer. And I have that software. I bought it from him years ago. So I actually test you with his software, checking for the different Lyme. And when I got bitten by a tick last spring, I ran myself through that, and it told me that I had a specific species. And when I went to the hospital, because they wanted to give me 10-day antibiotic, and I said to her, "Well, what do you suspect?" And she said, "I think it's da da da." And I said, "You're right," because I already knew it. But anyway, yes.
That was not the first tick that bit you, Tamara. You live
No.
in a place where there's a tick on every bush, and so
There-
every time you brush a bush, I mean, you're going to get bit by the damn tick. So
exactly.
I
Yes.
don't think I wouldn't consider that was your inception of your infection.
No.
Mine, I think, has been around for many years. I mean, decades. And I mean, I'm treating something that I just found out about and became symptomatic because my immunity dropped as I got older. That's my opinion.
And not only that, really, before you treat just about anything, and concomitantly the gut, you can see spirochetes sometimes in the gut report, which is very interesting. When the first time I heard that from my mentor, I was like, "What?" And he showed me where it was, and I'm like, "Ooh, that's irrefutable." But yes, and the biome is really important for your general immunity. So make sure you put my email. So if anyone has questions, brief questions, don't write me a book, please. But just, if I can help guide you, I would love that.
We'll get to that. We've got to talk about the bulk powder vendors,
Oh, yeah.
the powder stuff. So we've got these two powder vendors, booksupplements.com and purebook.com, and both have certificates of analysis about their lots, and they're pretty reliable. They're not as good as Fullscript, but they're very inexpensive, and for certain products like glycine, which is, it's hard to mess that one up. Um, they're quite reliable, and they have powdered almost anything. And if you're on a budget, um, it's uh, it's a way. It might be a way to go. Both vendors source raw materials globally, including from China. So that's the caveat that applies. And they're a nice thing to know about. And for some things, it's the best. I mean, probably for creatine, it'd be the way to go. I mean, creatine is inexpensive, and you can, I don't think there's any problem with the supply of creatine. Tell me your opinion about the bulk powder suppliers, Tamara.
So I differ a little bit from you, but I will.
You differ a lot
I,
from me.
I will go in and I want to look at their certificates because I want to make sure that they're testing for heavy metals and molds and all these other contaminants. Make sure that I'm not allowing my patients to take those. If it's good, if their the certificates are great, then it's a wonderful way to save some money. And be careful before you start dumping glycine in, just inadvertently. Glycine can run certain cancer pathways, and I'm not trying to scare you, but since I work with a lot of cancer, like late stage cancers patients, I know that there's some that we have to be very careful about giving them even glutathione. So don't just be willy-nilly and prescribe everything to yourself. Make sure you know what you're doing.
You remember my motto, almost everything scares me these days. So
Remember
you,
that post.
yeah.
Everybody should go look it up. But I mean, if the bulk powders are clean, then and no heavy metals, everything, I'm happy with them. I like my patients to get a good deal.
Well, I think that's pretty much it. Now, Tamara, once I think she would emphasize that supervision is very important, and you can see how complicated this stuff is. And so, if you do it like I do it and just fake it and try to prescribe your own supplements to yourself, you may not do as well. And but Tamara has very impressive luck, and she specializes in these complicated cases, these geriatric cases, and I don't know how she does it. I don't know how she's patient enough to deal with them, and I don't know how the complexity of it is overwhelming.
The
So that's my
complexity is deep. And but they're like I said, they're my little chickadees. So I love most of them, so, and I want to do the best by them. I
and
don't as of this date, I don't even have a sign out. I work pretty much by referral. And so if I don't do well for somebody, then I'm not doing my job.
and the AI helps. The AI
Oh,
helps, and
the
it's
AI, people are scared of it, but the AI is the best doctor friend oh, sorry about that, Robert, but that I've ever had because he has such in-depth, uh, knowledge of the genetics and of the biome and all these areas that I'm trying to get to the root cause. And he just like, I'm like, help me. And he says, oh, it's no problem. This is the diagnosis or the differentials. And I'm like, oh, thank you.
so Dr. Tamara doesn't even have a website, but let me give you her email, drsanta@protonmail.com.
Dr.
And
T,
Dr. T
T
Santa,
Santa.
T Santa, sorry, that's it. And her office phone number is 540-460-9861. That'll be in the show notes. And
987. Okay, could I correct that?
yeah,
540-462-7750.
okay, I don't know where I got that other one. 7750. Got it. All right, sorry about that. And then
That's okay.
if you go to Yoho's Apocalypse store on Fullscript, which is in the link at the top of every one of my posts. You can get in and Tamara and I will make that vast commission less 20%. And
It's
then
not,
you can get top quality supplements for less. Really, I mean, it's cheaper than buying it on Amazon. If you find anything on Amazon that's cheaper than the Apocalypse store or whatever it is,
in the apocalypse. Yes.
yeah, let us know.
And it's worthwhile to make sure because you'll know what you're getting in that regards, what is up. And that's good news. And I wanted to bring up one more issue about the root canals because that's the toughest area I have with patients wanting to get them to remediate a root canal or amalgams. They'll do anything. They'll do the microbiome or they'll do the DNA for me. But when it comes to this, and so last year I had a patient and I just adore her, but she came in several months after getting a root canal and she had been healthy and worked on the farm and everything. And now all of a sudden she had a progressive bulbar case of ALS.
Bulbar,
And
that's part of the brain.
yeah, I'm sorry, bulbar. Yeah, part of the brain, ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And her husband and her sister had noticed that right after, within weeks of her getting the root canal, she started having symptoms. And I think that that was like my most dramatic, where I could see what was going on. And so she went and did have it removed and cleaned up the
She got
whole
better.
area in the bone cleaned out.
Yeah.
And what happened is the second time when they went from getting it removed to getting it cleaned, they used a regular dentist that didn't know what he did. And I think he left some infection. So I had to ask them to please go back to somebody who really knows so we can get on with the journey of healing.
They have to drill it all out. And of
Yeah.
course, most of my readers know that my wife had a fatal disease called AL amyloidosis. She got 3 root canals removed and she was cured. It's an incurable disease and it was cured. So that's one of the first things you ask in if you're a real doc is what's in your mouth.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it's
you
just
literally saved her life because that illness is basically considered fatal. And then for women who have the breast implants, they should get those out too. They can be very disastrous on a body.
we got Judy's breast implants out. She had encapsulated breast implants, and I thought that that might have represented part of her problem, and I wasn't willing to leave them in, so I pushed her. She didn't want to get them out, but she had them taken out along with the scarring around it, which has the infectious process and some of the silicone. And so she's fine now. And
Yeah.
I breast implant illness is not frequent, but it can be severe and it can kill you. So, I mean, I view my whole career as the breast part of it is kind of a failed, a failed era for me. I mean, I had no freaking clue that they were as malignant as they were in some cases.
Well, you've done well to come up to speed on so many topics. And
For a dunce, you've gotten even a blind squirrel finds a nut. That's what Tamara is saying right now. Even a
yes,
blind
but
squirrel like
that's not
you
you. You
finds a
know,
nut occasionally.
you yourself have quite an inquisitive mind and you come to these conclusions by studying. And so it's pretty remarkable.
Well, it's the thing about me is it's like when the dog gets to the end of the blind alley with the fence too high to jump, he has to jump the fence. He gets chased down the blind alley by the other big dogs. And for me, I've got these fatal illnesses myself, so I've got to figure it out, and it's a case of do or die. So I'm jumping over the fence as best I can. I may not make it over. I may get caught at the top and fall back down and get eaten, but we'll see. I'm doing my best. So
And you've just recently started the high dose thiamine.
yeah, that's a thrilling development. Now I haven't seen a dramatic result yet, but um, I wrote a post about that. If anybody has Parkinson's disease, they should read that post. Don't you know, don't pass go. just go back, read that post, and see if that appeals to you, because it's an easy thing to do. You can take it orally, you can take it by a suck and swallow troche, or what I prefer is an injectable, which requires a prescription, but it's no big deal to learn how to do it. And that's only requires an injection once or twice a week. So it's easy, and I'm hoping for the best.
So basically, what I think, if you would recall the numbers, around 75% are successful in using this therapy. So my thought is, what about the other 25%? What's holding them back? And what I'm now doing, because I have multiples of Parkinson's, is I'm running their genetics to see if this particular program will be effective or what kind of support, extra support they need. And it seems to be working.
Tamara just sent off my genetics.
Yeah,
So it just requires a little swab on the inside of the mouth.
yeah. I just checked to see if they were back yet, because once they come, I'm going to know so much.
Well, I hope so. We'll see. Well, Tamara, I'm grateful for your time. And I think we had a nice podcast. I think they're going to like this one.
Well, I'm glad, and I appreciate you inviting me on. And if I can help any of your readers, I'll be glad to. It's just one thing. I get patients that I used to give them a half hour free, and they would come to me with very complex problems and want to do it in one half hour, and that doesn't work. Usually it takes more than that. So in that case, I have to either induct them as a patient or, do something, because it takes a little bit more knowing what's going on.
All right, Tamara, I appreciate your help and we'll chat soon.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.